Okay, so we'll go ahead and transition into our next part of the ITC Alumni Networking Series, which is our industry panel discussion. So today we are able to invite three seasoned experts in the industry. We will be addressing the fashion technology adoption in our supply chain. We'll be looking at kind of a perspective from past, present, and future. So first of all, I want to talk about sort of the background to this FashionTech Timelapsed webinar series, because this is one of them that or the last one we are including this summer season, which is when we established the FashionTech Timelapsed brand fashion exposition. And it is currently held in the ITC store on campus. So if you're staying with us for the facility tour, you'll be stopping there to see it live. And it's also available online through the Fashion Gallery website. So there's a QR code you can also scan to access our online content. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and share a bit of background through a video. Technology. The word has a connotation of like new, novel, and digital even. So we tend to actually hold these two definitions of the word technology simultaneously in our current society. Design group that we're looking at right now, we're not necessarily looking at it as a current society. So when we say technology in this as an overarching term for all technology uses throughout history.
I am an instructor in fashion design at ITC Institute of Textile and Clothing. I think traditional craftsmanship is irreplaceable. So felting techniques can create one-of-a-kind surface texture, which I think is relevant to luxury market demand. Couture garments are made to measure clothing that require precise fit on a specific body shape. So couture sewing technique can be applied on dense wear, which allow intense body movements. And for the influence on my design experimentation, couture cutting techniques and finishes are applied in the garment making process. For example, minimal hand stitches on the dress hem help the fluidity of the dance movement. I think different fiber, both natural and synthetic, are blended and felt with various base fabric to explore opportunity, possibility of surface interest.
Hi everyone, this is Dr. Huang and my full name is Taijun Huang. In this exposition, I want to tackle the issue of pleating natural fiber, mainly silk, and the synthetic fiber, which is polyester. So the challenge is how can I combine with this linen fiber and natural fiber and keep them long lasting. In the past, when people doing heat set pleats, it's usually very flat, even though we think pleating is three-dimensional, is fabric manipulation. Sometimes I just accidentally iron it, so the pleat just gone. So it's really difficult to keep these shape intact for a long time. In 2018, I encountered this technology called SLA, powder-based 3D printing. It somehow gives me a new chance to work with new material and technology. So I realized it really helped me to interrogate the core idea of what a pleat is. In the end, produce these 3D printing pleats. So I realized the technology not just help me produce work, but help me to interrogate my thinking, my philosophical ideas of what a pleat is.
Hi, I'm Serena Sun, Assistant Professor at Fashion Design in the Institute of Textiles and Clothing. So when we look at the difference between the two types, the traditional and the more modern technologies, we're looking at how it supports the traditional ways of making things, traditional way of manufacturing products. In many ways, it's supposed to support the traditional manufacturing technologies or techniques to make things more efficient, whether it's throughout the entire supply chain or just simply the process of finishing making that product or designing that product. So it's a supportive role for the traditional handcraft or craftsmanship, whichever word you prefer to use. So direct to digital manufacturing or fabrication technologies, sort of the overarching goal or umbrella for my research direction. So I look at all digital technologies that we can somehow integrate into the fashion industry in product development, but making it more efficient. So my point is it's not always just on the technical skills, it's also more on the soft skills that the young talents possess today that will take them far.
To push the boundary forward rather than just focus on the aesthetic.
Be more open-minded and accept different kind of later technology development and the possibility of using them in their creations.
So there it is. That's the FashionTech Time-Lapse Fashion Technology Exhibit. So as you can see, I'm one of the design faculty that has design featured, and also my colleague Dr. TC Huang over here. He's working with our online audience via Zoom. He was also the one who's been doing focusing on pleat technologies. So we want to show that through this type of exhibit and fashion exposition to really demystify the technology behind the garment, behind the product, and then look at sort of the traditional to modern and even digital fashion technologies. So today, we want to focus on more the digital fashion technology adoptions and integration in our current supply chain, but mainly looking at the Hong Kong / Greater China area as a focal point in our industry panel discussion. And as you can see here, the technology is more virtual. We're looking at virtual technology for design, product development, mass manufacturing for ready-to-wear products, and also mass customization as well. So let me go ahead and introduce our panel experts here. So first we have Ms. Edie Lee, Head of Service at Unified, and this is a new company. Would you say agree? Yes. Established as a 3D as a service company providing digital product creation and e-commerce for the apparel industry. So with their digital sale and increasing conversion to help their customers to optimize and also reduce time and cost. And we will expand on those things in shortly. Their services include digital block digitization, material digitization, product development, as well as design store and digital marketing. And some of their outcomes as here. And next we have Mr. Kim Ho, Manager of Design and Product Development, specializing in denim at Crystal International Group Limited. He leads a scale team to service of product development, 3D virtual processing, and sustainable innovation, and collaborating with their international brands in design and product development. And since the 1970s, Crystal International Group Limited has been developed to focus on co-creating a business type of business model, offering lifestyle wear, denim, intimate sweater and sportswear, as well as outdoor apparel. They currently operate with 20 self-operating manufacturing facilities worldwide, spanning across 5 countries with a scale of 80,000 workforce. And of course, like many other companies today, they specialize and also focus on sustainable practices. Some of their co-creation business model include also the big data platforms using co-design platform, digital tools, as well as a Crystal Denim homepage, which is a type of platform that they use internally for product development and design, archiving materials, content, also augmented reality for product visualization. Of course, we'll share a bit more about that in our discussion. And then finally, we have Mr. Roger Chen, COO at Cobalt Fashion, and which is a member of the fund group. He oversees the business operation at Cobalt with his technological economics background, and he basically helped to spearhead in all digitization projects. So at Cobalt, the headquarters is here in Hong Kong. It also has other design offices across the world with over 300 customers, over 100 factories around the world, and working with different teams as well. With focusing on innovation lab and sustainability commitment, Cobalt Fashion also sustains a global digital network working with the design aspects, the yarn mills, merchandising, all the way to their customers as well. Their personalized design platform also includes capability of customizing visually for their knitwear product and apparel, and also accessories, both aesthetic and functional ones. So welcome, panelists. Thank you for coming here. It's a pleasure to have you guys, and also during this special event for ITC Alumni Network. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our first question. We'll share a couple key questions for the panelists to discuss with us and share their insights. And we will take questions from both Zoom online audience and here with you guys toward the end, okay? All right, so our first question kind of comes from just general technology integration for your own organization and your past experiences as well. So we can kind of take this opportunity to expand on that. So how are modern fashion technologies integrated in your current product and supply chain in Hong Kong/Greater China? Any benefits compared to the conventional way? So you guys can take a dip, whoever wants to address first.
Yeah, it's always ladies first. So, hi everyone, my name's Heidi. So, we see that the benefits is in our company, we've been using a lot of the 3D tools, a lot of 3D CAD tools, and we've been adopting a lot of use cases throughout the industries and learning how to actually make use of a lot of the digital technologies, such as creating and coming up with design and aspirations through using CAD tools, from the pattern making pieces to coming up with the different options and possibilities. We hear from a lot of our customers that actually helped them go through that process quicker. It helped them achieve a lot more possibilities and options and variations in the ideation stage of product development for them. And apart from using these 3D CAD tools, we've also been using technologies to actually help create some digital fabrications, where before they go into technology developments of really creating real materials, they would be looking at the different ways of the weaving, the content creation of how you can actually come to certain fabric developments as well. There's also technologies where people would look at printing fabrics now, instead of just really weaving up the fabric contents and coming up with the prints and the dyes and the colors. So that's where we see a lot of benefits coming out of those technologies.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Great point.
Okay. Hi, this is
Adi.
Kim.
Yeah.
Thank you for your kind introduction previously. And when you mentioned our company, one of our successful factor, I would say, is about the co-creation business model. And for us, it means that we provide one-stop full service to our partnering customers. And exactly for fashion technology integration can benefit the co-creation business model. From the slides that we shown before, we actually make use of the system, and we can able to draw all our manufacturing data to support the future market trend. And
Can we go to the co-creation slide? Yep, thank you.
yes, and so it's on the left side of the corner, it's the big data platform. And we also start, sorry, and we also start by using the digital sampling as a virtual sample process. And then from which we move on to the co-creation platform. We use a digital mood board to share our comments or work online. So it's kind of eliminate the location or the a difference of the location or time zone. And last but not least is about our Denim Crystal homepage that we can also share the news, and we build our digital fabric library online, so the customers can always go and take a look and then download it and then benefit to their 3D making as well. So I would say it's
So is that like a Pinterest for denim?
Yes. Yes.
So it's available for customer to use as well, your clients.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Okay. So they're able to have a like a creative interaction, communication with you guys as well.
Yes. And actually from the digital fabric library, they can download the files that is already usable for the 3D software. Then they can always use their own fabric, because denim is a little bit tricky
Yes.
than other
Do you want to
apparel.
share a bit more on how tricky for our audiences?
I think with the same fabric, we are dealing with different wash base, with different texture and
The
with
faded, the rough.
yes,
right?
the
Yeah.
abrasion level, and originally the fabric itself has a lot of full character that we need to stimulate and reflect it in the 3D virtual samples. So I think the digital fabric is a really important part for us.
Yes, I can imagine.
Well, maybe I'm one of the older, generation panelists.
Which
I
is
think-
important, by the
Yeah.
way.
So if we talk about modern technologies, and if we go back to the 80s, I remember I actually worked for Crystal Group and responsible for running the woven and denim division as well. And I installed the first Gerber marking system in Mauritius.
The guru.
Yeah. So imagine back to the 80s, and the investment on Gerber marking system was talking about hundreds and thousands of investment. Huge investment. It was the most expensive piece of technology that we installed in the plant. And if you look at the benefit back to the 80s, the yield from marking was around 70%. And if we install computer marking, by that time, it was up to 85%. So you can imagine it was a huge saving in terms of material. And today, computer marking is actually run by simulator. And you would run thousand times simulating the best yield from marker. So we will be talking about over 90%. So you can imagine billion dollars of saving come from technology. And that time, the modern technology back to the 80s was computer marking. And today, if we talk about, the pandemic these days, and I recall the, when China started the pandemic and all our factory was locked down, we have no product, nothing to sell, to send to the customer. We were, all working from home, and then how can we send our offer to our overseas customer? So luckily, we were one of the early investor. I think the first investment was made back to around, I think 8 to 10 years ago. We bought the first Opitex, system. And at that time, Opitex, well, I'm not complaining, but Opitex, 10 years ago was not as sophisticated as today. You can't put top and bottom together on the American.
Yeah, technology limitations.
Yeah, it was a technology limitation. And of course, with the advancement, with all the innovations that come, we managed to create product without physically having the fabric in hand and be able to share our design with our customer. And luckily, with all these early investment, basically our business have not been disrupted during the pandemic situation. So what is the key benefit to modern technology? I would say technology save our business. Otherwise, we won't be exist, right? What will be the future? I don't know. There will be new technology coming, and every generation would have new technology on the way coming to us.
And Roger, could you expand a little bit more on what's the, if you have to say top 2 things that saves your business during COVID or pandemic or special circumstances in the, fashion industry in this area of the world, what would you say top 2 or top 3 key benefits?
Well, I would say it's no longer just the benefit. It's not a technology that's good to have. It's a technology that you need to have to survive going forward. It's no longer just an option for you. And today, I would say all our customers require us to submit our first product in virtual way. So without that technology, you won't be able to connect with your customer.
Yes.
And
saves a lot of lead time, right?
Yeah, sorted out lead time. And I recall when we first adopt our virtual, technology, each CAD operator can produce around 3 styles in a day. And with the same number of people, I think we would be able to produce around 20 styles in a day.
Yeah, significant difference.
And with the online business development, the number of style, SKU, and all these. If you don't have this technology, you can't even service online business.
Is that why you guys also have design offices around the world,
That's
right?
right. That's right. And we co-create with customer. So you need to have instant response to our customer requirement.
Right. So they take care of different customer clientele in that region of the world,
Exactly.
right? Okay,
Exactly.
I see. Well, this takes us to our second question. What were your journeys like in adopting these technologies in Hong Kong and Greater China area? So any challenges in adopting these technologies? I'm sure like it's not just a 1 day, a 1 week situation. As you mentioned, you were also, integrating these 10 years ago or even, longer back.
Yeah.
Any special timeline we're looking at?
Well, I would say the technology, the digital journey has not been easy. To be honest, if you have to invest a lot of money on technology and without knowing when you could get your money back, so your boss keep asking you, when can we monetize some of your investment?
Where's the money return? Yes, the return on investment.
Yeah, the return on investment has not been easy to answer, and also the risk of investing on technology is that it's not every investment could materialize in the long term, and I have to admit, without my boss knowing how much money I have spent, some of the investment has been just flow into the garbage bin. So that is the very challenging part, and also the journey. The first part of the journey would always be very lonely, because people would say, this product is not. I remember the first presentation to our customer, to our internal customer, not even to the external customer. They would say this product is not realistic. How can I present it to the customer? So please don't, ask me to present your product. So that would be a lot of internal criticism. There is a lot of uncertainty. You are not very sure you will get the result as you expected. And this loneliness would not be, go away because after the first phase of introduction, then when you get some result, your colleague will say you are not doing enough. When you are getting the result, then you are not doing enough.
And it's spoken like a COO. You're looking at the HR, the operating side of things, yeah? Any other type of challenges?
Of course, human resources is a big.
Yeah.
You have to, put people on the technology that might not be, available talent, in the industry. That you have to patient and train people from scratch. And also be able to communicate with our internal, external customer to believe in you that the product that you create can go into production.
Yes, yes.
That's also very key.
Yes.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of confidence in the leaders, would you say, in your organizations? And also, do you see people that you use benefit from that support you, but outside of your organization, I would say? Would that be a concern too?
Yeah, of course. You always face this kind of problem because most of the technology, when it was introduced, is not 100%, mature. You always need to get support from the provider, the software company that give you the training and all these.
Right.
But what you hear at the time they pitch you and sell the software.
Right.
It's always magical.
Magical, right? Yeah, and also I was, I know Kim has something to share also about your transition to, you share with me in person. About the sort of journey in adopting different tools, digital tools in your product development process over the years, right?
Yeah, it has been. It's loud. It has been many years. I think we started exploring digital integration for more than 10 years ago. At that time, the main purpose is to align with the laser technology. It would be amazing if we can put the virtual effects into the laser processing and then to the final products. But that time it wasn't really successful, honestly, because nobody did it back then. And it would be lonely because nobody would believe that it will work. And then after like 5 or 6 years later, we started to revisit the possibility of using digital technology in our design and development process. By a specific reason, speed. When all supply chain is trying to squeeze the time for product development, and 2 weeks lead time for the sampling is unacceptable, we are trying to squeeze to make the sample faster, and then to reduce materials. And it's like, imagine how many resources is used to make physical samples, like the material, the trims, and then the manpower, and then the sending the parcel, and then the courier, and then the sample storage. And so we started to revisit the possibility of using digital to save all the materials and then to respond to the market in a quicker way to enhance the communications. So I think we are really lucky that we started to revisit it in 2017, and then we have a year time to shape the way we work before the pandemic. So I think we are lucky that we have the experience when the pandemic hit us, and we need to find a way to communicate, to continue our development at home and communicate with the customers. But I think from the whole journey, it always have the challenges. Just like Roger said, money is a big issue. And then for us, like people is also
Well, that's easy for you to say.
yes, but for us, like people training is also another
Yeah.
investment.
How long you would just or like let's say money wise, if you had $100, like what's the percentage that would go to training and recruitment?
Uh, it's I think it would be a little bit difficult to put it in this way, but if we look at the investment itself, if your company is rich, you can always buy the software. You can always have a lot of license, but without the proper training, without the people who can actually create by 3D or by the virtual samples, then no matter how many licenses that you have, you can still produce zero.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of challenge would be the people development aspects, and also trying to align everybody's the same eye to judge a 3D. The 3D stimulation, is it like physical? Because the customers, or even for us, like a denim people, we embrace. It is an really interesting topic to explore, because for denim people, for denim designer, we love to feel the fabric. We love to see the washes in our own eyes. Then how can we estimate, or how can we judge through a computer screen? I think
Right.
it is the
It's a
new
very
normal.
tactile thing. Yeah,
Yes.
experience. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm wondering also, did you guys have challenge in finding the right clients, or expanding your client base when it comes to using these technologies?
Oh, not really. I'm quite delighted to see the
Oh, good.
industry is really welcoming.
Well, in the beginning also.
Yes.
Okay.
I think fashion industry is a bunch of people who are open-minded
Good,
and always
yes.
embrace the newness. So I
Yeah.
think the challenge is how we can cope with the changes,
Right.
more than
right.
accepting or adapting the changes.
Right. Thank you. Very informative. And ID?
Yeah, I think the journey for us as a service provider was a little bit different. So our journey started in 2015 when we were still part of the Lianfeng Group. And it was part of a department within the Lianfeng Group servicing their customers. The biggest part was, as everyone has mentioned, is talent. Acquiring the right talents, finding the people to be able to actually train and gain that knowledge. The second piece is going through that journey with the customer, providing that newness and the adoption, the abrasion of accepting
Yeah.
this new way of working, because it is a new normal. It's a very different process. It's a very, very different way of working. You need to be able to provide them with the expertise and knowledge of changing working practices. I think that behavioral change has been one of the biggest challenges in the journey, apart from the limitations of technology. Because the limitations of the CAD tools, the applications, that's a technology limitation that can be solved as time goes and as technology develops. But people's mindsets and the behavior of process change has been the harder journey. Although your customers tell you, oh, this is great, I really want to adopt this digital transformation and want virtual samples of everything, it's very hard for them to actually work in a very different way.
Yes.
Because the digital process runs in a very, very different way of working. You actually are changing their behaviors. So behavioral change, I think, has been one of the biggest challenges,
Yes.
apart from acquiring talent.
Yes.
And that learning curve of acquiring these technologies are not easy. You really do need to have manufacturing knowledge or some sort of supply chain expertise or knowledge to actually be able to acquire these tools.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, like you were a senior VP of digital product development at Lianfeng before. So when that was the digital team was integrated, was that challenging in your previous organization?
Absolutely, because we literally started from nothing. So
Yes.
from scratch. Luckily, we had resources to really help us. So acquiring those talents was really a bit of a mix and match of getting some of our old colleagues who actually had the garment expertise knowledge, the merchandising expertise knowledge, and training them into being able to use these tools to also acquiring new talents. So we did a lot of collaborations and partnerships with universities. So Polytech was one of them. We also worked with the fashion school in Parsons. We also worked with Manchester University, and we also worked with an Israeli fashion school called Shenka College, where we acquired some interns, we did some training. We spent a lot of education time in really getting our artists really up to speed and acquiring those talents to actually come out with a process practice.
Yes. Yes, and I remember you in our past conversation that you mentioned that it's challenging to recruit talents as well.
Absolutely, and that was why we then had to go into schools and universities and also different ways of finding these people, or we either retrain them or we go and acquire people from the other industries which actually had 3D sort of knowledge, and then retrain them into learning the manufacturing experiences. So it was a bit of a matrix of manufacturing people learning 3D tools, or 3D CAD people learning the manufacturing knowledge.
Yes, it's sort of like you said, mix and match, and then they have to then expand from their kind of home-based knowledge training point of view.
Correct.
And also, I want to kind of expand and pick your brain on the other services that you guys provide at Unified. So you also include blog digitization and then, store design, those sort of things. So what are the possible challenges in those kind of services?
They actually go pretty much hand in hand. If you think about the supply chain of how our industry works, you always start with the pattern making, with the silhouette, with the design ideation, and then you develop and you do the prototyping, which is in your development stages, and then you have to go and source for the materials. So what we're doing within these service offerings is helping you digitize each part of that journey in the supply chain. So when we talk about block digitization, that's the block base of the pattern
Go
pieces.
to that slide.
Yeah,
Yes,
he's on that.
Okay.
That's actually the creation of the silhouettes, right? The base patterns that you would actually then go and create your different styles and create the other types of options and possibilities. Material digitization is, as we said, the fabrics, the trims, all the minute details of the components or the condiments to actually create the garment. Product development, there is the iterative prototyping, the prototyping of creation. And then the design store is where we come up with collections. We actually come up with designed collections of different garments, and we actually provide that as maybe a co-creation with a brand, or they will give us some trend insights or design directions, and we come up with collections for them. And then the last piece, which is the digital marketing, is a lot of our customers have e-commerce business, online business, or even they only do e-tailing. So what we do is we create all of that content. Apart from having it manufacturable, we're able to provide those visuals and assets for them to sell with, to actually put them online on their websites or use it for their marketing campaigns, their catalogs, and give them that visual effect for the consumers to have that engagement and digital experience with them.
So how do people use these digital store views, and other, I know some of the digital software also can create a virtual fashion show. Do you guys deal with those as well?
Yes, we do. So that's part of the marketing content where you could do virtual catwalks.
I see.
You can create a whole digital merchandise. You can create animation motions, put on your AR, VR glasses, as maybe I think Kim and Roger also does as well. And we also do merchandise assortments in stores, where we would mimic a whole store environment, and then they could look at the visual merchandise and put assortments in, where also you can click on an item and you can see the details of the product and item as well.
Oh, that's very powerful these days. I remember some of the older, I guess more the limited capabilities in the software before. The virtual fashion show was not that natural looking. If anyone in the audience have experienced viewing those, they were kind of, the avatars were kind of awkward, right? And it has came a long way, but in a very rather quick, rapid way, I would say, right?
Now you actually there's quite a lot of applications outside, especially in the Greater China area, where we're seeing there's lots of technologies using AI and using machine learning. They're creating models through different face generative technologies to come up with virtual models, or even creation of your own avatars as well now.
Yes, and you guys also have offices around globally, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
we do. We have a global, we have 5 different offices, headquartered in Hong Kong. We have a Shanghai office, New York, Delhi, Seoul, and Shenzhen.
Yes. So they are all design offices that help support the different,
Correct,
just like
correct.
Kobo Fashion as well.
Yes.
And you guys, do you work with the Crystal Denim component division? Do you guys work with other design offices?
Yes, we always collaborate most of the time directly with the customers, because they also
See.
have a 3D team, and then they have people to access the 3D. Is it like a common alignment? So we
So you have to make sure they are using the same softwares.
yes.
Then you can't be my client if you don't have the right software.
So that usually we have all the software.
Yeah, yes,
Otherwise
yeah.
it would.
Right. Right, right.
Yes, yes.
Well, which are some of the ones that that you guys recognize as the most efficient brand names in these softwares?
Well, I would say different software platforms serve for different purpose, and it all depends on different project or different garment form or different purpose. So I think each, as for now, each of the software company, they offer their strength. So
The software players are quite niche, so they play in a very specific segment of things. So, for example, 3D CAD tool players, they only play in the 3D CAD tool place. The collaboration platforms only play in the collaboration space. The virtual stores and imagery and AR, VR, they only play in that space. So it's usually a collective usage of the different applications to get you to the end output. It depends on your purpose of usage in terms of choosing what kind of an application. But if you say, like in the 3D CAD tool players, okay, who's the best? There's multiple players playing in that space,
Right.
but because their functionalities are very similar, you cannot really exactly say this is better than the other.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And Kim has a slide on with some of the digital tool brand names as well. With Browseware, Clo, these
Yes.
kind of common programs, right?
yes, I would say Clo
Yeah.
and Browseware and Optitex are probably the most familiar software that a lot of company will use. But actually, for this slide, it's I split it in like create and make and share. And if we are splitting up, or if we are putting the different software or different platform in the category, it would be easier for us to understand. Like if for Visu, it's about fabric. It's about
Material,
create. It's about the material. It's
digitization,
about
yeah.
before 3D, before the virtual sampling. You need to have the digital formats or
Yes. Yes.
as a support.
Yes.
And then for Clo and Browseware is the one that helps to stimulate the 3D, and
Yeah.
a lot of other plugins, just like ID said, a lot of
Yeah.
other plugins like Metel to stimulate the people, the model,
Right.
features, appearance to make it more
Yeah.
natural or make
Yeah.
it more real. So I think overall, all kind of a collective of software. There are only one purpose: to stimulate the virtual process as real as
Possible.
the physical.
Yes. Yes. And Denim is difficult. Is that correct?
Yes.
It's challenging, but not impossible, right?
Yes. I think the technology has also helped us a long way. Yes, because I think for knits and for other garment form, there won't be so many abrasion level and the dry processes.
Right. Right.
How we can
Customize the visualization, right? I
Yes.
think that's what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
And also, Roger.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge to us is you look at all these popular brand of software, but they are quite expensive. on average, it costs around 20 to 30,000 US dollar, right?
This is
As a-
annual?
As a perpetual.
Yeah.
But of course, if you subscribe the license in 3 years, you pay the full license cost, right? So it's expensive. And the question is, as I mentioned, after you gone through the lonely period of time, and then you got the support, and then everybody asked you more, and how many licenses you can have,
Yeah.
then you would face the bottleneck, and then you won't have enough license. And of course, I'm in my position have to control costs and have to measure the investment and return. So we have to develop system. How can we, make use of this license, but at the same time be able to maximize return from this investment? So what we did is we let the China team utilize very low cost software like ET to create the base pattern
I see.
and utilize the higher end technician to put the low end in JPEG form
Yeah.
into the expensive software.
So that's the trick.
That's one of the trick. Or you can utilize the different time zone and allow the US people, when your machine is sleeping, let them dial in from overseas,
Yeah.
to the opposite time zone,
Right. It's
machine
tricky
to-
when you're working globally
Yeah.
with all the different time zones, and then now like COVID, we have more experience of dealing
That's
with
right.
different time zones as well.
That's right. Then of course the question is bandwidth. How quickly you can, operate your machine with such a distance,
Yeah.
and still be able to operate as effective as you are, working on site.
Yes.
So we invest quite a lot of money on building the network. And I remember during the pandemic period of time, we actually acquired quite a number of 5G router and let our
The
people
speed.
install
Yeah.
the 5G router at home.
Yeah.
So we need to really find way, because all these investments are very expensive.
Yes. I
And
can't
really
imagine the
better.
storage that you need,
Yeah.
for all these digital files and the processing. Yeah. So when it comes to sweaters, knitwear, what are the unique challenges for this type of
It's
product?
different software. We use
Yeah.
different technology, because we use we used to scan the image of yarn and then be able to simulate the texture, on the stitches that you have created. So if I look at our digital archive, the number of choice of yarns and the choice of stitches and the choice of silhouette. Today we have around 2 trillion combination of product we can generate from the archive.
Wow. That's enormous. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys, do you mind sharing the number and for your denim group, the different fabric swatches that you have in your homepage, or?
Wow, I almost lost track about it because yeah, I've never counted, but yes, because the more artwork or the more resources that you build,
Yeah.
then later on when you create a 3D, it will be faster. If we always start to stitch up the garment by paper pattern, and then
Yeah.
all the time, always we need to remake the whole thing, it will not be faster than a physical sample. Don't
Yeah.
forget that the physical samples of the sample room, they are really experienced in making garment. But then
Yeah.
if we want to save time, then we need
Yeah.
to build up a strong library and an archive all the artwork.
Right.
And it's ready to use.
Yeah. Do you have to brief
I
the
think
sample
thousands,
room?
a few thousands, I think.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, different parts, the
Yeah.
buttons, the fabric base, wash color, the dry processes. It's a few thousands for now, I think.
Yeah. Do you guys need to brief the other supply chain sectors, like the sample making room, other, closer to product development, or ones that are down the line, down the stream? on the technology and tools that you guys are using
Well,
in product
definitely.
development. Yeah.
Definitely. I think
Yeah.
it needs a lot of alignment between different departments or different sectors of the
Yeah.
industry.
Right. I think that's also one area that we, as fashion professionals, tend to miss in companies and brands. I'm sure that you heard stories and experiences about kind of forgetting the importance of keeping everyone on the same page, right?
Yes.
Did that take time too for you guys?
Yes, I think communication is really important, and the initiative that each of the parties need to understand or need to be on board with it. Otherwise, it would be impossible to go through such a big changes.
Right, right. Thank you. And I want to go back to Roger real quick. When it comes to the knitwear manufacturing, because I know Global Fashion also does produce your own ready-to-wear products, so whether it's more customized or not, what kind of technology adoption challenges when it comes to the fabrication tools, the machineries, and how do you work with do you have any suppliers outside of Global?
Well, before we deal with the challenge from the supplying side, I think we have to deal with the internal challenges first. And I remember I have a short debate with my internal colleague saying that please do not send me measurement chart. Just send me the sketch. Because I would translate your sketches and replicate this sketch on a 3D form on the mannequin, on the avatar. So if the product looks nice on the avatar, so why do you insist on giving me the measurement? Right? So it has been big debate. Designer
Yes.
insists that if I give you the measurement, you follow my measurement.
Right.
But in fact, the measurement may not be even accurate.
Right. Or
on the
it's not
avatar.
inclusive, right? The measurement only, we're commonly like the bust, waist, hip,
Exactly.
and then,
Yeah.
yeah, but that's actually doesn't give us the most realistic
Exactly.
measurement for the body, human body.
Exactly.
Or pets that you
Yeah.
guys have.
So that is a kind of change of mindset, because the tradition is not in the mind that you, without giving a measurement to the factory or the sample room, they won't be able to make accurate sample. So that is a kind of internal debate and learning that you have to go through. But when you communicate with the supplier, the same. They ask you for measurement, right? So where can I get you the measurement? So at the end, we just send them the pattern. You just follow the pattern,
Yes.
do it.
Yes.
Right? And for knitwear, because our data could go straight into the knitting machine, and the knitting machine could even knit the 3D product. And because we can even control the loop length of the knitting process, so that means we can even control the thickness and hand feel of the product. So that saves all the unnecessary communication. But just have the production ready data set, airdrop to the machine, and get it done. So things move much faster than the text-based, voice-based communication.
So you guys have to customize your own spec pack at the end of the day.
Yeah.
What is that process like? Is that challenging to integrate within your own organization?
It's challenging because if the process, if you look at the demand today and you handle everything manually, you would never have sufficient, manpower and software to deal with the customer requirements. So we have to develop robotic technology to deal with all these issues.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So that takes us kind of into our next question. So I'm kind of interested more on, with all the technology adoption in sort of this, kind of topic, what is the design and product development role changing? How do you envision the designer or product developer? Like, what role do they play in our supply chain now?
Refresher.
Sure.
I would say the merchandising and design work are converging. Because if the design work co-creating with the customer. The output from the creation is already production ready. So then the middle piece of merchandising work is shrinking. So that would allow us to very direct from supply to demand side. And the middle is getting very, very
Thin. Yes. Yes.
So I would say our, in the past, division of labor and division of expertise is actually converging and getting very close.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you guys agree?
Yes, I do see a shift on design or product development role from more like a skillful worker to more like a technology adaptable candidate or people. It's not easy to hire a really experienced paper pattern maker, sifu,
Yes.
or the sewing
Yes.
姐姐. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And with the same time, when the skillful worker is shrinking,
Yeah.
there's a new hope to give room for the technology. So I think for designers back then, we are more focusing on the concept or for trying to do the drapey effects by our own. And now we, with the help of technology, we are more diverse. But it would. I still believe that it won't change the nature of design, because as for design, we are not only focusing on like a product or the product level or the garment or the apparel format. It's about think of a new way of working and embracing it and change our normal lives. So I think the nature of design and PD will not change, but the role will definitely change.
I think the talent pieces, designers are still the creative brains, right? They still need that creativity and that space of alignment.
Yes.
It's more of the tools that they're going to be using.
Yes, I was thinking
right?
just that.
It's not the role that they play would be different. There is the conversions in terms of the things that they do, but it's the tool sets that you're providing to them has changed the talent requirements, right? They no longer just need a piece of paper and pencil.
Right.
They're actually more on a MacBook with an iPencil, for
Yes.
example.
Yes.
It can be many other tools that they would
Yes.
use. So in terms of the talent pools, I would say technology is just another set of tool sets that enables you to do things another different way. That's how I see it. And the roles of each of the different departments or the convergence, as Roger has mentioned, is because the way they're doing things would be different now. But they still play a very important role in that whole supply chain. So designers still create that creativity, the possibilities of the merchants being able to curate those collections and come to a buy, come to a decision making onto the buy and the design. That still happens. The sourcing component of that still happens. But all of that technology is enabling them to do it differently with even maybe better scalability to the amount of work they can do.
Yeah.
So probably we could say that it does not constrain them from the bottlenecks that they used to have.
Yeah. So what do you guys look for in recruitment, like for your area of specialties?
In my area, we have a very diverse sort of skill set talents, right? We have the technology piece where we build in terms of our systems and the platform, which is, pipeline developers and engineers in terms of the technology piece. And then we have the artists.
Yeah.
But in terms of artists, we also need different types of skill sets because of the usage. It could be the visual designers who are doing the
Yes.
graphics, so maybe CG designers, or even the merchandise sort of designers as well, so the fashion-oriented textiles designers. So we have a bit more diversity in terms of our skill sets in my teams
I see.
because of the service offerings we're providing.
I see. Any other add-on?
I think we are facing the same situation for recruitment. It's about diversity. It's about we are embracing the artists. We are embracing the 3D virtual artists
Yeah.
and the stimulating and rendering technology. And I think it may not be realistic if we find one candidate with full of different types of talents,
Yeah.
but we
Yeah.
need to build a team with different talents.
Yeah.
Then that would be for sure.
Yeah. Any special important soft skills for your for this kind of the new role that your designer product developer are taking? Open-minded.
Open-minded and
Yeah. Communication skill you mentioned before, right?
yeah, well, yeah, that's not only for
Right.
the digital.
Yeah, but is there any like more like unique aspect to that kind of communication since you're dealing with a lot of different sector in your supply chain now? I mean, as a designer, on your team.
Well, I do think of a word like empathy.
Empathy.
Empathy, because of the communication with all of different parties, just like Roger said, there would be some people they are really stubborn. They are more used to work in the way
Agility.
they used to be. And yeah, so I think when we no matter for the new talents or the industry people, we always communicate with empathy, trying to understand the other's perspective, and then we try to build up a constructive communications. I think that is important.
Constructive, yes, and then a very effective feedback loop, I suppose. Yeah, yes. And Roger.
Yeah, I think the challenge of our designer today is lacking of manufacturing know-how.
Yeah, manufacturing
There
knowledge.
is a big gap.
Yeah.
And as you know, in the past 2 years, people are not even have the chance to travel from Hong Kong to
Right.
China.
Yes. Yes.
And they haven't been seeing the factory.
Yeah.
And I've
Just
been,
pictures.
yeah, just picture or video.
Yes.
Right? They don't know what they create on the computer,
The
be able to
operational side of
translate it
things.
into
Yes.
physical product. And there has been a lot of ongoing debate between the design department with the sampling facility.
Yes.
You know, what you create cannot be produced in the production floor. But it's true because there is big gap between the two, focus. The design people tend to create product, attractive, eye-catching to the customer, but it may not be able to produce in the production floor, and without manufacturing knowledge.
Yes.
So of course there would be a lot of misunderstanding. Communication needs to have knowledge, then would be able to communicate effectively.
Yes.
But if the knowledge only focus in their own area, but not be able to understand each other's, expertise, then it is hard to communicate. And I keep getting some practical argument and debate, from the two teams. I want a 6-color jacquard, and the knitting machine cannot handle 6 color.
Yes.
So how can you do that?
Yes.
Right?
It's the reality versus fantasy
Exactly.
and creativity.
Exactly.
And mesh the two together
Exactly.
effectively.
So we need both.
Yes.
We need to train our designer with practical, manufacturing experience.
Yes.
And also we need to train our manufacturing staff
Yeah.
with some, artistic, understanding.
That sounds like a lot of job for everybody. So I want to expand kind of delve a little bit more into the global digital network at Global Fashion. Can we go to that slide? So you mentioned that there's a kind of circular process from design initiation, ideation to the implementation. So tell us a bit more about the different sectors of the digital network.
Well, actually, it's another slide. Yeah, that one.
Yes.
Well, in fact, the digital operation cannot be a silo operation, and because first of all, we have designer onshore working with the customer in their own local time zone. But they can't work with the customer without knowing what is happening in Asia, what material is available, what texture is available, what they can create and be able to produce on the back end. So you need to have a digital enabled ecosystem and connecting all the different, professional area, including our yarn mill, including the knitting factory, including the digital asset that we have created and be able to utilize so that they can work much faster. So you can imagine if you create a new silhouette, and if you just change the already made silhouette and modified it to a new version, is much faster than creating a silhouette from scratch. So this kind of backup resources is important. And if we connect all these, different party, on a network, that would be able to, allow us to work more effectively. And at the time you create the product, complete your creation, the costing is already there. You will be able to, talk with the customer. You like this version, and how much would it cost to you?
Yes.
For part.
Yes.
And if not, change another option. That would make the ecosystem, a lot more effective.
So you're in terms of talent training and recruitment, so do they all have to kind of deal with the mills, the factories, do you guys have to spend quite some time to train them to communicate with each of these sectors within Kobo?
So whenever we hire a new talent, the first 3 months they don't really do their day-to-day job. The first 3 months has been, learning, practicing on software, going through all the different departments, the sales departments, the material procurement departments, to go through and also go to the lab, because our lab has our manufacturing machine, and try to line up some of the yarn and then operate the machine.
Very hands-on stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
Then they would be able to know, how to make the real product.
Yeah. So you have to spend a lot of time training them internally, so they have rather a basic a resume CV base when they come into your company. Okay, I see. So let's transition to our final question. So we're gonna kind of look at let's look at things more creatively in the next 5 to 10 years. For we're sighing for Hong Kong / Greater China. So what kind of impacts and investment do you foresee when it comes to technology, this type of fashion technology adoption, or some of the automation in manufacturing that Roger mentioned earlier? What kind of role do you guys think, education could play or would play in the future as well? So we can kind of actually be a little creative in this part as well. I know Roger earlier mentioned you're not sure. You shrug your shoulder. But we can kind of, sky's the limit. We're just envisioning. So.
Well, whenever my younger colleagues come to me and ask for salary review, I always throw back a question that, what is purpose of life?
That's a classic, classic conversation there.
Well, I think our industry, have to really face the very big, purpose question, is to really make the community, more sustainable, the well-being of the all the stakeholders in our industry. Well, if you look at our worker in Bangladesh, if you ask me what is the purpose of me being here, I would say is to really remove the hardship of the worker in this place. With these condition of work.
So social sustainability is critical.
Yeah, sustainability is very important. So I would say the next 5 years, if we look at 10 years as a window, the first 5 years, I guess, we have done quite a lot on the downstream supply chain automation and digitalization. but the upstream supply chain has been really analog and is still very manual.
Yeah.
So we have to do something to really make these workers live a better life, right? And then the next part of the 10 years, I would say we might have to move away from digitalization, from auto manufacturing into material science. That is a very important part. And I have been spending time with my younger colleagues, engineer, to look into textile, be able to digitally interactive with system
Yeah.
for the well-being of the user. And also circularity. How can we engineer the raw material be able to go back to the system?
Yeah. Recycling.
Yeah, without causing damage to the environment.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother can of worm
Yeah.
for our industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kim, would you like to take a dip?
I believe
Yeah.
the digital technology has forever changed our industry. We are always imagining manufacturing like 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0. We started off with a lot of automation processes supported by mechanism. But then with the help of digital, integrate with the mechanism, what else we can achieve? I think in future, the way we work will completely be different. It will be much faster. Communication will be much easier once we get used to it. We used to spend a lot of time flying back and forth to the US, or the customer
Yes.
flying to Greater China for development meetings or on-site workshops, for the washing workshops. That may not be necessary anymore in the future. And so I think it will be a more higher efficient way of working for the whole industry. So I think that's pretty much moving on to
Yeah.
the 3.0 and 4.0
Yeah.
in the future of manufacturing.
Yeah, let me add a quick follow-up question on that. Do you think we would take a different role as Hong Kong / Greater China in terms of the whole global industry?
I would definitely go for the global alignment. Like, because if we are talking about digital, we are not standing our own like a Hong Kong based or China based. Basically,
Sure.
it just remove the location concerns. So it's like we
It's very
stand as a
agile,
global.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And Heidi?
Yeah, I think I don't know either, right? But
Yeah.
this is a guess. There's
Yeah,
two.
it's
yeah,
not
there's
graded. I'm
two.
not giving
There's
an assignment.
two very different aspects to how this industry is going to move. The one is the industry 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0, which is all about the robotics, the AI. But then I think the second part of it is the transparency of the circular economy that Roger was mentioning, which is the digitization of the data, of being able to actually have information transparency. Where information, why it's still very analog at the moment in our industry is because we don't have an information flow of data. There is no standards of streaming and flowing information through the whole supply chain. Everything stops. There is no interoperability amongst the supply chain at the
Consistency.
moment.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's my view of seeing. If I'm looking at the next 5 to 10 years, I'm seeing that the use of data and information flow would actually be creating, like, for example, all the blockchain technologies coming out, RFID, NFC, like all of this technology is to help digitize information flow, transparency of data across. Like, that's where I see would be a very, very big leap for our industry, because that would help connect those analog systems, as what Roger was mentioning, you know, the workers in those factories. How are they able to get that order and know what to process and make use of? All of the machinery, all of the robotics that's been created in the industry 3.0 and 4.0. So I see it in these two lenses, because in another lens is the consumer space. The behavior of our consumers are extremely different now. It's all about being digital, seeing CG content, and being fulfilled with a lot of experiences.
Yeah.
So that's also a very, very different world for our industry, where we're now also hearing in many other seminars or panels out in public, where they're already talking about the metaverse.
Yeah.
What does that mean, right? Like, what that mean is you actually have a virtual person of yourself and selling virtual assets of the same thing that you would be wearing. So literally a digital twin of yourself, and digital items, and that consumer space is also another growing world, which I see China is already in at the moment.
Yeah. So would you say that in the Greater China or Hong Kong area, we are more at better advantage than some other parts of the world?
I do believe so, because I work with a lot of the foreign, you know, Western market, American markets, the European markets, and they're obsessed about security and information security, right? Like, data is like their life.
Yeah.
But when I'm working with the customers in China and in Hong Kong, they have a total different perspective and lens.
Yeah.
They're able, they want to exchange their data with you to trade for something that they see beneficial for. So that's a very big difference in terms of cultural mindset.
Yeah, more open-minded,
Yes,
flexible.
yes, and that's why I see in the Greater China area and maybe even Hong Kong, you would see that change might be more explicit. Like, you would actually see it more, and you would see the gradual changes of how people expose that information, and that transparency of the usage of technology would be higher.
That's exciting to know, right? Roger, did you have a comment about that too?
I think the Hong Kong and China, or Greater China, has different, you know, focus and different strength. Yeah. China definitely has the scale, has the market.
Yes.
The market is the driving force of the technology advancement. So if I talk with my colleague in China, and we talk about online purchase, they are so used to, it's almost like their day-to-day life. Without having the mobile phone, they can't live.
Yes.
Right? Everything is digital. So they're already in their DNA, they're used to do that.
It's intuitive for them.
Right, it's intuitive. And of course, this behavior was very much nurtured by technology itself.
Yeah.
Because if there is no technology, they won't be able to live the life they are
Right.
today. Right? So when we talk about technology development, we used to see Hong Kong as the open community, be able to get the best technology from all over the world. And in fact, I'm using more and more China technology today. You know, the performance and the cost to performance ratio is very high in China.
Yes.
And I can say, you know, we have developed a WeChat application.
The small app.
The small
via
app.
WeChat.
In fact, I have the QR code that put on printed form, and if you know, some of the audience like
Yes,
to
we'll be happy
test
to
on it.
promote.
not to promote, just because I have not even launched it to the market, but happy to you know, let
Some feedback.
you know, just to test the application. And it's all built in China.
Yeah.
And they have the instant rendering engine.
Yeah.
You know, could be able to take the very high resolution images.
Yes.
And be able to translate into fabric.
Yes.
And the data is ready for production.
Right.
So that is China. That is the opportunity. That is the challenge as well. But as I say, the behavior of the Chinese consumer was very much empowered by technologies.
Yes, yes. Do you guys envision, like, with those apps and mobile devices, that customer would just be doing more co-design? Like maybe the percentage of customers' involvement in that final product will be higher. Would you agree to that?
Agree.
In the future.
But the question is, as I mentioned, the upstream, manufacturing is still analog.
Yeah.
So how can you handle?
Maybe it's like a 15-year, 20-year question,
Right.
or kind of projection.
Yeah. So I guess the supply chain would go through a digital revolution.
Yes.
The retailing side is done, but the upstream, manufacturing will
Yeah.
be very much
Yes.
go into digital.
Yes.
And I see China has the ambition
Yeah.
going that way.
Yes. Yes. What could we do in education? Any final comments about that, guys? What role do you think education, like us, we are one of a kind, as Professor Fan shared earlier, kind of our position in the fashion textile education globally. So what role of education do you guys think we could support the industry and also lead the industry for innovation, research and teaching?
Well, my view is the university student have to learn everything, not one subject.
Yes.
I remember my generation, if you learn coloration, you just learn dyeing and finishing. If you learn spinning, you just learn the 3 years, 4 years spinning.
Yes.
But now you have to learn all the different subjects.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to learn, the digital technology, the different, knowledge.
Yeah.
We might have to change 3 to 4 times our career in life.
Which is not a bad thing. You get kind of see the different colors of the color wheel.
I see the same thing as well. Talking about the 3D virtual sampling, you would not be able to do it if you don't know how to sew a garment physically.
Yeah.
If you don't understand the paper pattern, then it means the student nowadays and the educator is facing a bigger challenge, because the old traditional, the conservative, or the knowledge is still there.
Yeah.
And it's still important,
Right.
really important.
Yeah.
But on top of it, you are building up extra components to
Right.
support or to integrate with a whole new set.
Yeah.
So that's how tricky education is,
Yeah.
because we would not be able to give up the old things.
Yeah.
They are still the fundamental.
Yes.
They are still the big.
Thank you for recognizing our challenge. No,
It's-
but
yeah.
that's also the value in our job
That's true.
for preparation of future talents. Yeah. Heidi, did you have a comment as well?
I think so. It's specializing in the field with the diversity of acquiring the skills of the whole piece.
Yes,
So
the whole supply
before,
chain.
yeah, because before you, as Roger said, you major in fashion design, you only know how to design
And draw.
and draw,
Yeah.
right? But you don't actually understand that process. But
Yeah.
now is you can be specialized in being a designer, but also understand how the manufacturing process runs, right? Because if you don't actually have a holistic view of how the whole operation runs, it's very hard for you to actually be able to acquire those new
Yes.
skill sets, because you need that diversity in your knowledge.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Well, I think it's our time to kind of take questions from our audiences. Any questions from our offline audience here? Yes. Can someone deliver a mic for him? Oh, there it is. Okay, you can keep this one.
Thank you. For Mr. Roger, excuse my ignorance, but I just want to ask, how much water consumption is the industry is using, and is it sustainable? And is it possible to go and use zero water when we do fabrics?
Yes, there is possibility. In fact, we have engaged with a research institute trying to look into chances of creating dyeing stuff through bacteria. So bacteria could grow and create pigment. The non-chemistry approach, perhaps, or what we call the bio creation of dyeing stuff, could be the potential, future. Of course, if we don't invest today, we won't be able to
Yes.
achieve, what we want. And waterless dyeing, of course, there is available technology, like supercritical dyeing, right? Like ultrasonic dyeing. There is technology available, but what I'm seeing, the problem is capital investment. I recall, my time graduate from polytechnics. Well, most of our graduate in my class, they spend, I went overseas to run factory, and they went to China to sell machinery. Most of the time, they sell spinning machine, dyeing machine. It was the time during the 80s, 90s, even up to, the millennial. A lot of capital investment into the textile industry. But unfortunately, I haven't seen a lot of capital investment in the last 10, 20 years into the textile industry. Perhaps the business owner not making enough money from their investment.
Yes, especially
And they're
now
not confident.
in the pandemic.
Yeah, but if we are not, start investing, and I guess government policy is changing. And this day, you can see China's only work 2 days, and then 3 days you have to work off-peak. What we call off-peak is that you have to work night shift or work during Sunday, and make sure the power plant are not overloaded during peak time. So all these go into your cost structure. So it's the time to think about capital investment. And with capital investment, that would address your question, would waterless dyeing possible? Yes. Capital investment. R&D, yes, we can create dyeing stuff without aggressive chemicals, but all about R&D investment and capital investment into manufacturing facility.
And also, I would add, develop research project with program like us.
Yeah.
And any online questions, TC?
Yes, we do. We do have 2 questions from online audience, and one specific for Roger, and this is from our alumni postcard. And he or she say, as IT's alumni, Roger, with your years of experience in the industry, what's your view on upgrading ITC to School of Fashion Textile within PolyU?
Well, I'm the first one would raise my hand and support the the school of textile and fashion, because I recall my year in Polytechnic. It was the time just renamed from technical college into Polytechnic, and ITC was the founding faculty of the technical college, and we were in Wu School. And Wu School was having all the manufacturing facility around there. So why we call the building Wu School? Because Wu spinning was the fundamental industry of Hong Kong. So we should go back to the good old day and stand up ITC as a school.
Yes.
Right?
But upgraded and
Upgrade,
for the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other
And
questions?
the last question we
Yeah.
have here is, what is the competitiveness or strength or shortage of the local trained fashion designers compared to Greater China area or overseas trained designers in regarding to your perspective?
Can you repeat that?
The strengths and the competitiveness or shortage of the local trained designers compared to overseas trained designer.
So do we have a talent basically advantage compared to overseas talents in this area? Maybe
I think it's the proximity to getting that diversity of skill sets, right? Because in Hong Kong, you actually get to be exposed to a very international culture where you are exposed to the Western cultures, to the Asian cultures, and the proximity for you to actually go to manufacturing plants, go to seeing the trading supply chain businesses, because you actually have that in Hong Kong where it's so easily accessible, unlike in a lot of the overseas artists or designers, they don't have as much access to these components and infrastructure for them to actually go and participate and acquire those skill sets.
Yes. And actually, kind of like what Roger mentioned before, China these days is becoming more and more open-minded, and then you mentioned that as well. I would also add from the fashion professor perspective is that our students, our talents here get to see the manufacturing side of things. Of course, we can expand and do better on that, but also being very open-minded on the design side of things. So they do have an advantage in both aspects compared to, because I used to teach in US and our students, our talents there did not have the manufacturing side of things. So that's kind of the disadvantage there. So we do have to wrap up now. So we will take more questions. Actually, if you can join us on facility tour at ITC, our colleague Joanne will be leading that. So we will be meeting in the this 40 Theater lobby right outside. So if you're joining us, continuing. And before you guys leave, if you can, if you have not scanned this code to take that 1 quick minute survey or vote for ITC upgrade, please do so before you leave. And thank you again for coming. It's been a pleasure. So we hope to see you continually in our next part. Okay. Thank you guys. It's such a pleasure.